Speaking of Donald Trump using our service members as pawns in Washington, D.C., and how that's not going to go well for him, I appreciated this comment. D.C. in August is hot and humid. Morale among those troops is going to plummet. Yeah, I've talked about this before. I'm actually quite concerned about morale amongst the National Guard. These are citizen soldiers, y'all. These are folks with regular jobs, regular lives, who live in these communities where they are being called up. I covered this a number of weeks ago, but troop morale in Los Angeles was very low. I think it was The Guardian and hang on a sec. And also the Los Angeles Times that were reporting California National Guard members have very low morale, having mental health crises, getting really negative feedback from their family members who don't want them to be doing this job. There were reports of Guard members who said they felt like they were being used as pawns, reports of Guard members who said they were standing around doing nothing. They felt that it was a tremendous waste of their time. And all that was happening for them is they were standing there and they were seeing their fellow Californians be absolutely outraged at what they were doing to carry out the will of Donald Trump. I'm sure it's real shitty to be standing there and your fellow Californians are looking at you and talking to you saying, why are you doing this? Why are you supporting this? This is not right. You know that this is not right. Why are you allowing yourself to be used like this? So we saw both the National Guard and the Marines not only have low morale, but also growing resentment against the ways that they were being used for something that they thought was not right. There have also been increasing concerns about folks not wanting to re-enlist in the National Guard who are saying, now, peace out. Peace out. When my term is over, I am absolutely not coming back and doing this again. I was really excited to do things like support my community during the COVID pandemic. I was really excited to have the privilege to protect my community from forest fires, etc. I didn't sign up to stand there and guard ICE detention centers while my fellow Californians told me that I was being complicit in supporting an ethnic cleansing. I'm not doing that again. And now we're seeing troops are being called out to Washington, D.C. And this is a good point. Really high temperatures and high humidity, not good for morale. These are ordinary Americans who serve in the National Guard. They have families. They want to be enjoying their summer vacation. They don't want to be used in this way. When you don't believe in the mission and then the weather really sucks, when you feel like you're being exploited, used as a pawn in somebody else's political gain, and when your neighbors are looking you in the eye saying, how could you be doing this? That is not a combination that is going to result in a very effective military occupation of all of the DC metro area by like 400 members of the National Guard. Again, like the math is just preposterous. And again, because our service members are human beings and they are prone to all of the psychological stress of being put in a situation like this, I am very concerned about their mental health. When we have very low troop morale, we have an uptick in self-harm from service members. I talked about this a while back, but there has been an unusually high rate in self-harm for members of the National Guard who have been deployed along the southern border. They don't want to be doing that work. They don't believe that what they're doing is good. And decent people are forced to partake in something that they feel is immoral and unjust. It's devastating for their mental health. I know that Trump really wants you to believe he is some big, all-powerful military dictator, and he can command our service members, our fellow Americans, as if they were pawns, because he doesn't see them as human beings. He sees them as literal pawns in his game, just like he sees all of us as not really human, right? That's why it is so easy for him to do the things that he's doing. He has thoroughly dehumanized all of us. He's definitely dehumanized our service members. I know it's easy to believe the propaganda of the fascists that he can control the military and they are completely allied with him, that they are absolutely fawning over him, they are loyal to him. But we know that that's simply not true. That is straight up disinformation propaganda. Right? There was that rally that he had at Fort Bragg that people were all worried about. And then we found out afterward that they handpicked pro-Trumpers from Fort Bragg to stack the audience, and that Trump also demanded that they not be fatties. It's all spin, it's all propaganda, so that Trump can manufacture this narrative that not only is he all powerful, but he commands all of the military with complete allegiance. It's smoke and mirrors. We've got to remember that our service members are human beings. We've got to remember how many of them do not want this. They are not mindless drones. They are not Donald Trump's puppets that will go ahead and hurt their neighbors. Especially when we're looking at the National Guard. These are citizen soldiers who work and live in these communities where they're being deployed, where their neighbors are looking at them and saying, bro, what are you doing? These are American citizens who are not excited about this mission. These are American citizens who don't want to feel that they are betraying their neighbors and their family members. These are American citizens who do not believe in this mission. These are American citizens who are under tremendous psychological stress. I know I've talked about this before, but it is so important that we keep going back to this example every time we are worried that Donald Trump will control the military in order to occupy 340 million people. We don't have to talk about the logistics and the numbers and how that's just not possible. Let's look at the human aspect of it. And let's take the example of the pro-democracy resistance movement against Slobodan Milosevic in Serbia, and how one of the key tactics was to humanize members of the military and the police, and to talk to them, to look them in the eye and say, you don't want to do this. When the time comes and he tells you to pull your weapons on your fellow citizens, on your neighbors, you're not going to do it. We know that you're going to do the right thing. You do not have to participate in this. We're telling you right now, when you're ready to lay down your arms and come join us, we will welcome you. And we also know, we trust that you are going to remember your humanity and you're going to remember ours. And when he tells you to fire on your neighbors, on your family members, on your fellow Serbians, that you won't do it. And because the members of the resistance made that concerted effort, that was a strategy of theirs to remember the humanity, to appeal to the humanity of members of the military and the police. When the time came that Slobodan Milosevic ordered that they shoot on the crowd, they wouldn't do it. They laid down their weapons, and not only that, they stood aside and they let the pro-democracy movement sweep into the palace and topple Milosevic's autocratic regime. If you are saying we're cooked, he's going to use the military to take over all of this country, I want you to remember, I know there's a lot of people in the military that are Trumpers, but I really want you to think about whether or not you're believing propaganda from this regime. And I also really want you to think about the reality of what our service members who are being used in this way, disrespected in this way by Donald Trump, are actually feeling, what they're actually going through, and whether or not what Donald Trump says he can make them do is actually something that they are willing to do.